Alrighty, so let's talk about land taxes and how to make the most out of it, and why building administrations under land taxes will actually decrease our income if we are lacking tax capacity. So first, you want to jack it up to the highest level. However, you want to do it in an interval of 6 months. So if you start with a medium land tax, you want to jack it up by one level first, wait 6 months, and then do another level. This way, you lessen your radical from standard of living decreases. And also, you do not want to build any tax capacity under land taxes to try to collect more taxes. You actually will lose money doing so. So like if you see this notification popping up, like saying you have insufficient tax capacity, do not give in and build administrations in those states. Just leave it be. Like you actually will lose money. However, if you need more bureaucracy, like you want to like do stuff like enact some institutions, if you switch out of traditionalism, then yeah, still definitely you want to build more bureaucracy. You will want to build more administrations for the bureaucracy points. And lastly, it's fine to build administrations to incorporate states with less than 2 million pops under land taxes. You will be essentially making money, or at least breaking even doing so if you're in the early game with less than 5 levels of institutions. So yeah, these are the conclusions, and let's talk about why I came up with those conclusions. So first, peasant demands are multiplied by 0.1. So taxing peasants with land taxes will have an extremely minimum impact on the demand side of our economy. So we can see here, under the peasant file, peasant has a consumption multiplier of 0.1. So essentially, what that means is that if they make $100, they will only spend $10 in our actual economy. That's essentially what it means. However, they will still be able to achieve the same standard of living as a pop with 100 income will be able to do so. So that means by taxing peasants, we are only impacting our economy by 0.1 times. So if, say, we tax 1 million pounds from our peasants every week, we are actually only taking out 100,000 bucks from our economy every week doing so, like with the land taxes. So taxing peasants is great. You want to do it. This is why you want to jack it up to the highest. And sure, you might be concerned about like, oh, what about radicals and stuff like that. This is essentially what happens with radicals. First, you don't really get a lot of radicals from jacking up land taxes. Here I have Japan, where I basically just jacked up the taxes and did nothing. And we can see here we have 1.15 million loyalists and 24k radicals. Like, you just do not get a lot of radicals by taxing peasants a lot. Why? It's mostly because, well, the thing with peasants in the beginning is that they start with a pretty low standard of living anyway, so they start with something like 8 or 9. Oh, they start with 9, right? So essentially they start with 9, and jacking up the taxes will actually only make them drop to 8. So you only get one level of drop, which is what, 9% with the 50, like 6%, which 6% radicalization, and with the 50% radicals from tax, you only get 9% radicalization. So not a lot of radicals. And also, since nations which start with land taxes will also happen to start with a really big landowner pop, which means you will get a really high legitimacy under autocracy, that will just give you a lot of legitimacy and give you tons and tons of loyalists. So yeah, you are not going to be worried about radicals or turmoil, even if you have land taxes jacked up to the highest. So let's just see how much radicals we will get if I just let the game run and do nothing here. So game is running in the background, and we'll see how much radicals we get. And also, another thing with nations that starts with land taxes, they also tend to start with serfdom. And abolishing serfdom will actually just increase the income of our peasants by a flat 1. Like, it increases subsistence output by 1, which is pretty much an income boost by 1 for our peasants. Peasants function just like any other pop, except they have this demand multiplier. That's the only difference they have with any other pops. And the subsistence income is essentially a flat one. Like abolishing serfdom essentially just gives them one income, which essentially will in turn negate the effect of the maxed out land taxes, which tax them at one land tax, which is one income, right? So once you abolish serfdom, you will actually have a huge influx of loyalists from peasants coming in. Like land taxes will not be an issue. The only nation that makes it a bit more difficult to abolish serfdom with will be Japan. Like you have the issue with starting with isolationism, so you cannot use corn law to switch into to abolish serfdom really easily. However, it's not gonna be the biggest of issues. Like not the biggest of issues that we're gonna get. And yeah, so let's move on. So this is the reason why we can jack it up to the highest. Radicals and demand both are not going to be issues. And moving on, every point we're talking about tax capacity now. So every point of tax capacity can tax 100,000 pops, 10,000 pops. We can see here, 10,000 pops requires 1 point of tax capacity. So in turn, that will mean that to tax a common early game industry, we need 2 tax capacity, because under 25% workforce ratio, which is what most nations starts with, that's 10,000 pops is 2.5k labor, right? And a common early game industry has requires 5k labor. So 2 tax capacity for 1 common early game industry. So essentially each point of tax capacity, and also each point of tax capacity will cost us around $100. This is through some Excel magic I'm too lazy to translate right now. So essentially this is 20% throughput, this is the wage level I calculated, this is the how much tax capacity we got at 20% throughput, and this is the first, second, and third level of administrations we have. So essentially at the second level, under 20% throughput, 1 point of tax capacity costs us 110. And at the third level, 1 point of tax capacity costs us $93 per week. So essentially, let's just say $100. 100 income in the early to mid game. That's a reasonable assumption. And we're also gonna say that if we want to tax the common early game industry, we need 200 weekly revenue. And land taxes provide us, like, these are a bunch of assumptions I have made, but I'm not gonna read into them too much because that would take too long. But essentially we can see here, under land taxes, one subsistence farm will provide us with 104.95 income. And one industry will actually only provide us with 90 income. The 120 investment pool contribution doesn't really matter because it's not affected by tax capacity. The tax capacity only impacts the income tax. So we're only talking about like a decrease. Oh, by the way, what's popping up with all the events? Oh, now I get a huge bunch of loyalists. That's because, oh, I got an eruption. I mean, nothing you can do about this, right? It's like, there's not a lot you can do. Like, if you get like an event like this, you're just screwed. That's all. So essentially, like, to tax, like, the revenue we make from taxing an industry ranges from 90 to 104. And the cost of taxing an industry will cost us 200. So essentially, if we build more tax capacity trying to tax our industries under land taxes, we are gonna actually lose 95 to 110 weekly income. So yeah, we do not want to go around trying to build administrations to collect more taxes. If you see this insufficient tax capacity, just ignore it. Like, you will just ignore it, honestly. However, it's actually fine to build more bureaucracy to incorporate, because states actually get a base 100 to 225 tax capacity depending on your tax. So we can see here, like, our states will provide us with a base tax capacity of 100, and our tax levels would the centralization line of tax, which is essentially this line of tax, will give us a plus 25 flat tax capacity every month. I mean, for every tax we get in it. So yeah, we will have in the mid game essentially 150 base tax capacity in the early mid-game, which means it can tax 1.5 million pops. Remember that one tax capacity can tax 10,000, right? So 150 taxes 1,500,000 pops. And if they're all peasants, that will actually make us 1.5 million times 0.25. That's our workforce ratio divided by 5. That's 5,000 subsistence, 5,000 labor, 5,000 workforce required for every subsistence farm, multiplied by 100, which is the 100 here. Which is 104 here. I'm using 100 just because I'm lazy, honestly. So that will give us 7,500 revenue. So essentially incorporating a state with 1.5 million pops will give us a revenue of 7,500. And what's the cost? The cost will be 10k, 100k pops at 5 level of institution will cost 15 bureaucracy to incorporate, and 1.5 million pops will in turn cost us 235 bureaucracy. This takes into account a base cost of 10 per state, like we can see here. We have a base cost of 10 bureaucracy per state, right? So 10 per state. So according to Excel magic, 1 bureau points costs around 22 income per week. So essentially that will mean 235 that costs us around 5,000 income per week. So essentially we will be making 2,500 in revenue, in profits, by incorporating a state with less than with 1.5 million pops. And it's gonna scale. Like if the pop number goes down, your bureaucracy points also goes down. So you're kind of just pretty much making a 50% 50% margin off your cost right now. And as long as we are incorporating a state with more than 200k, we are gonna make money because there's a base cost, right? If you're incorporating a state with less than 200k, you are still gonna lose money because the tax capacity doesn't really cover the base cost. However, if it's as long as it's more than 200k, you're gonna be making money. And as long as the pop count is less than 1.5, the tax capacity can take. So in the case of our 150 tax capacity, we will start, like, as long as it's less than that, we will be making money. So as long as we are incorporating a state with less than 2.25 million pops, we will still be making money. If it's greater than 2.25 million, our bureaucracy costs will exceed 7,500, which is how much our base tax capacity will bring us, and that's when we start losing money. So if you have a tax capacity of, say, base tax capacity of, say, like 200, right? 200 base tax capacity, that will mean you can incorporate a state with less than 3 million pops and still be able to make money. This is where I came up with the 2 million here. As long as you are incorporating a state with less than 2 million pops, you are pretty much guaranteed to make money. And of course, this doesn't take into account the additional tax capacity we actually get from building more administrations. So this leaves us with a lot. This is a really safe estimate here. Like in practice, we are still gonna be making more money, even if we're a bit over 2.25 million pops. Also, things will vary a ton with different laws and tech. This is just an approximation of the early game. Like Japan here has what? Japan here has hereditary bureaucrats going on here, so it's super cheap for them to incorporate a state. We can see here, like Kansai with 8 million pops only costs like 177. It's because Japan has a minus 50 bureaucracy population cost multiplier right now. And it also doesn't have any institutions. I mean, it has one level of institution, but not a whole lot of other stuff. So you are not really gonna have an issue. Also, as we can see here, like I have been letting the game run for a long time. It's been 10 years already, and we only have 2 million radicals. This is under max out taxation, and we only have 2 million radicals. And what's the 2 million mostly from? It's mostly from the unemployment. It's because I'm not building anything. So there's a lot of unemployment going on. And that's pretty much where the 2 million, like the biggest source of our 2 million. and it's honestly it's just not gonna be an issue. Like radicals from maxed out land taxes will not be a huge issue at all. Under proportional, it's gonna be a much bigger issue because you are taxing them a lot harder. But under land taxes, it's just fine. You're like you're fine. You're fine. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you got any questions, if you got any comments, feel free to post them in the comment section. Bye bye.